True Australian black metal. What is it? In my case, I would argue it's more about intent and less about a sound. I did recently put out a demo where I named it True Australian Black Metal. And I guess the reasons behind it were more tongue-in-cheek. And you see a lot of, true this and true that. And, what is the true sound of Australian black metal? Well, I could argue that we're a bastard child of many different scenes. The only thing I think that defines our boundaries is probably the lack of the mythical. It's more of a real type of lyrical content. And again, that's not something that's, you can't say that about Drowning the Light, and probably countless other bands that have popped up now in the Australian scene. But in my case, lyrical contents will kind of fluctuate between, the anti-religious to the probably more despicable human endeavors. These are demos, and these songs were recorded just after the Excommunicado release, and I would probably, if I could take it all back, I would have hung on to the Excommunicado release until I had these songs completed. And these songs were kind of in the works when I was putting that out. They just weren't a finished product. But what I found, with the learning process of recording my own music is depending on and in my case, the levels weren't correct when I recorded them. So if you've ever seen like a digital recording thing, you'll notice like when, the sound waves are kind of should look relatively substantial. Well, when I was recording them, I wasn't dialed in high enough, so a lot of those sounds were compromised. So in my view, they just didn't sound right. Since then, I've gone back and I've kind of fattened up the sounds and tried to add a few more elements to try and make them, cohesive songs. And this was the first time that I had added keyboards to the music just to kind of bolster it up. And I didn't think it turned out all that bad. Like I had some organ lessons when I was a kid, so I kind of knew I knew what a keyboard was. Let's just say that. It took me a little while to find all the sounds and to be able to record it, but I got it in there, and as basic as it is, it, in my opinion, adds to the sound of that demo. I did have Maddox Deep Shadows record a small vocal phrase for the first song, and that originally wasn't the intent. This was right back at the start of the Inebriated Winds project. We were trying to work out logistics of recording and dialing in different sounds and things like that. And he sent me a vocal performance to try and figure out, how the vocals would sound. And I liked the little piece he threw out so much that, I asked him if I could use it in a song, which he graciously gave me the permission to do. And that song became Battalions. And if you don't, if it's a blink and you miss it type of situation. But if you listen to that song, what you'll find in the middle of it is a lot of artillery gunfire and sirens going off, and then Matt's in the background screaming in, only Matt can do. And there was a piece in it where, he's like, he will destroy you all, or something like that. And it just sounded so cool behind the gunfire. It just, to me, reminded me of like a crazy warlord just screaming obscenities at the enemy, like a very antagonistic. So I thought it sat beautifully. And the song was originally kind of written around like when the, Ukraine-Russian thing started to heat up. And I couldn't help but notice the outpouring of sympathy and different things for the Ukrainian people. But it was funny that when the Israeli Gaza thing kicked off, how quickly we forgot. So with that in mind, I finished the lyrics. I had to redo the drum parts for it, and it was kind of like a, very removed opinion of, these televised wars now and how they kind of capture your attention for a while, and the atrocities that happen that we just view on a TV screen. And then when something new comes up that can suck our attention away, we focus on that and we forget that, there's like two countries at war, and it's absolutely, fucking devastating what's happening, but we're like, oh, there's a fucking squirrel, so we kind of look in this direction and we forget. So there was 5 songs that I had. I thought they were cool enough to kind of put out there with, a demo quality, and I thank everyone for picking up that was something I swore I was never going to do again, which was kind of hand make everything. But I thought I'll do just 10 copies, I'll run it through. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do the true Australian black metal, let's try and work around that topic. So I ordered in a bunch of material from Australia, shipped it over, and kind of handmade it. So though everything's probably not made from from Australian product, it was imported from Australia to make a product that I could sell as, proudly Australian. So in that regard, I guess it is a true Australian product. Probably filtered through China, but an Australian product. And being on Fomorian, I was like, well, I don't want to necessarily put it out on Fomorian like it's an official kind of next step in the Warhammer type of discography. So I wanted to kind of side release it, very little fanfare, and just put it out there for the BandCamp people who follow me on that. And I was like, I've probably fucked them in the past before by putting stuff up on BandCamp and then forgetting to post that I'm pre-selling it. So I was like, I'll just, put some stuff over there specifically for them. I knew it probably wasn't going to get a ton of attention because I just wasn't going to do anything with it. And so I just put out 2 or 3 email blasts through BandCamp. It was sucked up in I think it was under 12 hours. It was all gone, which was probably about what I expected for such a small amount. But I kind of like the idea of having this music that isn't quite what I would say ready for probably mostly for my fault with recording, but isn't what I would put on an official release. So I want to be able to kind of go back and fix up some mistakes to the best of my ability and release it just through my BandCamp, you know. So that all, when you see it through my BandCamp, that's got very little to do with Fomorian. Now, might Fomorian release it later on? Maybe. You know, we might think of something cool to kind of put it out there and kind of suck it all into one package and try to do something that's a bit of a value for dollar. But until we kind of come up with a good idea for that, I like to, you know, kind of keep that as a little bit of a side thing to keep me interested in between releases. You know, I'm not putting a lot of money into it, so it's, you know, I can keep it at a good price point if you feel like you need to hear it and pick it up. And I mean, I thank everyone for the support every time someone buys something, and I mean that. But it's not something you know, if you have to get because of the fucking world-class quality of it. You know, it's on these demos because I couldn't get it to the level I wanted to get it to put on a CD. Not to say that it isn't cool. I like majority of these songs. To tell you the truth, I like the 5 songs on this demo better than I liked the 8 songs that were on the Excommunicado release. Put that in perspective. And I do have a lot of songs that are left over from different releases, and you know, the new release that I've got coming out around Easter time, there's 9 songs that are going to be on that CD, and there's probably another 8 that I took off. So, and they were all recorded to the point where I thought these are fucking stellar, but for whatever reason they didn't fit within that release. So they'll see the light of day somewhere else down the track. I don't think it's enough, you know, in there to put out an album and say it's a cohesive album. So it'll probably come out just dribs and drabs. So I'm excited for you to hear them, and they're a little different from what's on that. You know, I tried a few extra things, not that they're not black metal, they are, but you know, all my style of black metal, it's just I've found a few interesting sounds and tricks and things to put in there, and I thought they were kind of cool. So they just don't fit the color of that album, I guess. But that's I do want to in the future put out the songs, the demos that were recorded in between the albums that kind of led me to the point where I was recording a full bunch of songs for things. And, you know, I've even got demos of songs that were supposed to kind of, I recorded around the same time as the Fuck Your Goat demo, which even when I listen back, they're not bad. I mean, they got their grit, and they've got their kind of cool little hooks and things like that. It's a different side of that demo. But I mean, we're coming up on 12 months for when that demo was released, which I said to, you know, the girl last night, like, it feels like a lifetime because we've kind of spent so much time, effort and money and miles getting to different things. So I might put out something with that, kind of tag them onto the back as bonuses, but it'll kind of just expand it. So that's something to look forward to, I guess, if you really love that demo. But that's about it. I just wanted to get on there and get on here and explain the True Australian Black Metal release. And I haven't been on here for a time, so I figured, hey, get on, say good day. And hopefully get to make a few more of these, maybe explain that process of how I put that together. Because even that itself is kind of interesting as to, you know, how I made that cover, the idea behind doing that cover. and I'll figure it out and I'll try to explain it in a more cohesive way. But thank you for sticking around. Thanks if you picked up that demo. There may be a second version of it which will be different than the other one, but time will tell. Cheers.